Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Foliage. In today's video we are going to be talking about a very beautiful vibrant plant called as the Croton, or also called as the garden croton. The botanical name I will put it up on the screen. It belongs to the family of Euphorbiae and it is a shrub kind of a plant. Now a mature size of this plant will grow anywhere from 3 to 8 feet in height and 3 to 6 feet in width. That is when you tend to grow it in ground. You might have seen in my previous video wherein I was doing a little bit of plant show around in the backyard. You might have seen those huge crouton plants. They tend to grow really huge in ground. Now I would say about the soil mix, they prefer a moist and well drained. The pH of the soil should be a little bit acidic and they are native to Asia. Now guys, let's talk a little bit in detail about this plant, starting off with the light. Now, this is where a lot of people tend to make a mistake, is by keeping your crouton indoor in a less light condition. If you're going to keep it in less light condition, then the colors will disappear. The plant will start to revert back to green in color. All of the yellow color will start to disappear. So be extremely careful. It will do quite well in outdoor conditions. Dappled sunlight or filtered light. They need a good amount of light. As you can see, mine is very bright, intense yellow in color. If I'm going to move it in indoor or in a place where it doesn't get a lot of light, the leaves will start to revert back to green. This is a type of variegation. Variegation does not always mean that it has to be white in color. It can be in any form. Here it is in the color yellow. So if you're growing it outdoor, ensure you give it a good amount of indirect bright light. Do not expose it to afternoon direct sunlight, otherwise the plant will get burnt, the leaves will get damaged. In nature, they tend to get morning direct sunlight. If it is planted outdoor in the ground, they can tolerate morning direct sunlight provided the plant is very mature. Our plants that we pot in the plant are very small and they will not be able to handle even the morning sunlight. So it's best you give indirect bright light. That is going to work out really well. If there is going to be insufficient light, the leaves will start to turn green, as I said. So wherever you are keeping it indoor, ensure that there is a good amount of light at all given point of time. Now talking about watering, keep your crouton plants evenly moist during the summers when it is very hot and dry, but do not keep them in soggy wet soil. You have to ensure that the pot you are growing it in has to have a drain hole. They do not like to be sitting in soggy wet soil for a longer period of time, otherwise that will lead to root rot. During winters, which is their dormant period or a partial dormancy depending upon your environment and climate, reduce your watering during the winters, but during the summers increase the frequency of watering. But do check that at least the upper inch of soil, around 1 to 2 inch of soil, is dry, and then go ahead and give some watering. Talking about the soil mix, they prefer a well-draining soil which is loose and porous and it has a good amount of organic matter. As I said, they prefer a slightly acidic soil, so you can go according to that. If you're going to ask my opinion, I tend to use the same soil mix, which is a mix of coco peat, garden soil, sand and perlite. So that's the soil mix that I tend to use. Now talking about fertilizer, as I said, this plant is a summer grower and tends to go dormant during the winters. During the winters, do not add any fertilizers, only during the summers. You can go with any liquid-based fertilizer. You can do it once a month during the growing season. You can even use some compost or vermicompost as well. Seaweed solution will work out best. Now talking about temperature and humidity. Now guys, this plant is native to Asia, basically a tropical environment. It will do well anywhere between the temperatures around 25 to 35 degrees Celsius during the summers, and during the winters as well, as long as there is no snowfall or frost, or the temperatures do not drop below 5 degrees Celsius, the plant is going to do extremely well. It prefers a little bit warmer environment. That's why it starts growing during the summers, and winter it tends to slow down on its growth or tends to go into partial dormancy. If you are from a place wherein the winters are very extreme or the summers are very hot, then I would say move your crouton indoor and keep it in a place where it gets a good amount of indirect but bright light. But if you're growing it indoor, guys, please ensure that you're not keeping the plant under the air conditioning vent or the heater, because that will damage the leaves. And indoor, I would suggest to keep this plant somewhere where there is a good amount of air circulation, very well ventilated area where there is a good amount of humidity, because this plant does like a good amount of humidity. If the humidity is very low, you will have to buy a humidifier, otherwise the leaves will start to fall off. Or what you can do is, I usually do keep a container of water beneath, do 1/4, do not let the pot touch the water. You can try that as well if you are from a very extremely dry environment, because if the humidity is less, it will start to drop the leaves. The same thing, if you're going to keep it in direct sunlight, it will start to drop the leaves, and the leaves will not, and the plant itself will not start to grow very healthy. So ensure that you're maintaining all of these stuff. Talking about pest attack, yes, this plant does get affected with fungus, mold, and even aphids, mealybugs, scale insects. So you have to do a routine check. Always check underneath the leaves, check in between the leaves. If you see any white flies or any kind of white insects, you can go with any organic solution that you have been using all this while. Talking about propagation, it's very simple to propagate your crouton. You can do your pruning as well. When you're doing pruning, you are going to cut some of the stems in order for the plant to become very bushy, because over the period of time, the plant can become very leggy. It tends to have a very long stem and it gets very leggy. So if you want to multiply it, best is just cut off any part of the stem, put it into the soil and cover it up with a plastic bag. Ideally, it will work out really well. Within let's say a month or so, there will be roots coming up on the plant. Now, of course, you do not need to pull out the plant from the soil. You will start seeing new growth on the cutting. The moment you see there are new growth on the cutting, it indicates that the crouton has started to root. So that is a very best way to prune your crouton as well as do a propagation. With stem cutting, it is the best choice or the correct method of propagating your croutons. There could be other methods, but I haven't tried it. Stem cutting is one of the best method. Now, talking about dormancy and non-dormancy, this plant will go dormant during the winters, again depending upon how cold your environment gets, but during summers it gets into its active growing period. So that is when you can add some fertilizers and give a proper balanced watering. Talking about, is this plant toxic? Yes, this plant is toxic to humans as well as pets. So ensure that you're keeping the plant away from their reach. So apart from that, it's a very easy to grow plant, very colorful. If you are a person who has a good amount of indirect bright light or bright light, you can definitely add this in your collection. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep propagating.